What's up, guys? It's Ben with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to be doing my updated Senate forecast. A lot of things have changed since I've done my last forecast, so I definitely want to give you all the details. Right now, I have the Republicans at 41 safe seats, and the Democrats at 45 safe and likely seats. I don't think it's really important to focus on Minnesota, Virginia, and New Hampshire at the moment. And before I get too far into my video, I just wanted to remind y'all, please subscribe to my channel if you're watching right now. I do new videos every day, and hit the bell notification that's right next to the subscribe button. I'm almost at 4,000 viewing hours, and once I get there, then I can start doing live streams when like primary election things come out, and I'm going to follow the debates. And I'm going to try to start doing double uploads each day and doing a lot of research. So I'm really going to dedicate a lot of time to this. So anyway, diving right into our video, this is the map where I see it right now. And one state I just want to get out of the way, I left one of these safe red states just for me to do right now because I wanted to explain it. It's the state of Kentucky. A poll just came out that had Mitch McConnell up by 20 points. And I mean, Donald Trump won the state in 2016 by I think over 25 points, close to 30 points. And so it's not going to surprise me if Mitch McConnell actually does win the state by 20 points. Amy McGrath, I don't think is a very strong candidate. I think there's this conventional wisdom that, I mean, of course, she was in the military. She's a veteran. On paper, she's a very good candidate, but I still think Kentucky, this is just going to be a little bit of a lost cause for the Democrats. I think they're going to pour a lot of money into the state with wishful thinking just because Mitch McConnell's the boogeyman, but not really get much traction just because Kentucky is so solidly red. So next up, I'm going to move to the likely Republican states. The first state we have here is the state of Kansas. On Tuesday, 2 days ago, there was the primary election, and I had called this way before that. I did not think Chris Kobach had a chance. I haven't actually changed this characterization. I've always had Kansas at a likely Republican state, but Representative Marshall won. He was in the House of Representatives from Kansas, so he was the establishment candidate, and he won pretty soundly. Chris Kobach, I think, barely broke 20%, even though he was backed by like billionaire Peter Thiel and Coulter and some other personalities. And Chris Kobach is very well known in the state. He was the former Secretary of State, and he ran for the governor's seat in 2018. But I think his infamy was actually what ended up making him lose. And so I think that Republicans realized that that the Senate seat was like very important, and that if Chris Kobach were the nominee, that they would risk losing it. And the only reason I don't have this as a safe seat is because there has been evidence and data in the polls that suggests that Kansas is trending blue a little bit. And the Democratic challenger in the state of Kansas, I think Boiler is her name, is a pretty strong candidate. So I think she will put up a good fight, but the Republicans will end up winning the seat at the end of the day. Next up, I'm going to go to the state of South Carolina. I do think Lindsey Graham will be able to hold on to the seat. Right now, the polling has it within the margin of error against Jamie Harrison. I think that Jamie Harrison is a very good candidate for the Democrats. However, like Kentucky, I just think that South Carolina is such a Republican state that Lindsey Graham will be able to hold off his challenger. And especially with Donald Trump on the ballot, I think this is going to help Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump are like best buddies. Next up is Alabama. Normally you want to think of as Alabama as being anything but safe, but Doug Jones did win in the 2017 special election under very unique circumstances. Tommy Tuberville got past the primary pretty soundly against Jeff Sessions. There wasn't much drama with that. So I do expect him to win probably by around 10 points. President Trump is going to outperform him, of course, just because Doug Jones is the incumbent, but I don't see Tommy Tuberville having much trouble winning the seat back for the Republicans. Next up for the likely Democratic seats, the only state I see right now is besides these three states is the state of Colorado. John Hickenlooper is going to be the Democratic nominee. He ran for president. He was a former governor in Colorado. And Cory Gardner is just the most vulnerable Republican senator. I've compared the states of Alabama and Colorado where they kind of flipped. Cory Gardner really probably shouldn't have won the seats in 2014. His opponent was ridden with scandal, and 2014 was a Republican wave year. There was a midterm election when a Democrat, Barack Obama, was president, so that makes sense. I don't think the RNC is going to invest a lot of money in the seat just because they know it's kind of a lost cause. So I expect John Hickenlooper to win the seat by probably around like 10 points or so. Next up, I'm going to move to the lean Republican seats. Right now, I have Texas as a lean Republican seat. I could even see Texas being a likely Republican seat. And remember, the likely characterization is between 5 and 12 points, and the lean characterization is between 2 and 5 points. I've seen polls where John Cornyn, the Republican incumbent from Texas, is up by 9 points, 10 points I've seen, which is actually encouraging for President Trump in the state of Texas, too. Cornyn is going to outperform Trump in Texas just because he's more well-liked. He's even more well-liked than Ted Cruz. So there's a very competitive Senate race in 2018 with Beto O'Rourke versus Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz won this race by 1.5 points, which was closer than a lot of people anticipated. I expect John Cornyn to win this seat between like 4 and 6 points right now. John Cornyn's opponent, MJ Heger, I actually had to look her up because I'd never really heard of her before. She's not a Beto O'Rourke superstar figure, so I don't think that there'll be a lot of money, or there'll be less money backing MJ Heger from the Democratic side than there was Beto O'Rourke in 2018. So I don't think that the Democrats are going to make a huge play in the state of Texas on the Senate level at least. So I think that John Cornyn will be able to keep the seat pretty safely. Next up, I have the Georgia election at large. This is David Perdue versus John Ossoff, who's like a Democratic filmmaker. The polls, every single poll I've seen has David Perdue outperforming President Trump. I think President Trump is like slightly down to Joe Biden in the state of Georgia, but the average of the polls does have David Perdue up against his opponent. I've seen between like 1 and 5 points. I do think David Perdue will win the state between like 2 and 5 points right now, just because David Perdue is a well-known figure, pretty popular in the state of Georgia, doesn't have many scandals to his name. Next up, I have the special election in the state of Georgia. This is pretty interesting because Doug Collins and Kelly Loeffler are running on the Republican side. Kelly Loeffler is the Republican incumbent. I'd always thought that Doug Collins was going to easily wipe the floor with Kelly Loeffler just because he is more popular in the state of Georgia and because like he made a name for himself defending President Trump in the House impeachment. However, I did see a poll that had Kelly Loeffler up just because she's the incumbent. Remember, Brian Kemp appointed her in 2019 to replace the outgoing Republican senator who I'm forgetting his name right now, but he had some health problems, so he stepped down. It's going to be very interesting because I doubt any candidate's going to get to 50% on election day. So this election is going to be held after the election. It's going to be held in December or January. So whoever wins the election, I think the opposite party will probably have a pretty good chance of winning right now because I think Joe Biden's going to win. I think the Republicans are going to come out in strong numbers. So I do think that the Republicans will be able to keep the seat, but because there's so much uncertainty, I don't feel confident putting it in like the likely Republican column yet. Lastly is the state of Montana. And so I know some people have had this as a tilt Democratic state or a tilt Republican state. I was actually just in the state of Montana, and I went through a lot of rural areas. There's a lot of support for Steve Daines. I understand that Bullock was a very popular governor and that John Tester, a Democrat, won in the 2018 midterms. But I just saw a poll out that had Steve Daines up by 4 points, which is a huge number. And it had Donald Trump up by like double digits in this point. I don't think a lot of people will be doing split ticket voting on the national level in the state of Montana. There was a lot of split ticket voting in 2016. Bullock won, a Democratic governor, and Donald Trump won. But Donald Trump won by like 20 plus points. And I think Donald Trump will get close to that 20 point number. And I think just on the Senate level that Steve Daines is going to win this reelection. And I feel pretty confident in that number. The Republicans are going to put a lot more money into the state than the Democrats are, is what I'm guessing. So next up, I'm going to go to the lean Democratic states. The first one I have is the state of Michigan. We just had this report that President Trump and the RNC are not maybe investing as much money right now. I think they definitely could make a late play for it like they did in 2016. Remember, Trump's last rally was in the state of Michigan, and he did a lot of rallies back then. I think what the Trump campaign is realizing is they don't need the state of Michigan to win. They can just hold on to Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, for example, and win. I think John James is a very good candidate, but just because of increased polarization, I don't see a lot of people voting for Biden and John James. You maybe could see some black voters vote for John James and Joe Biden. I was reading some articles that did suggest this. I don't think this will happen very much. I think John James and Donald Trump will track each other very closely. So I still think that the Democratic incumbent does have an advantage in the state. Next up is the state of Arizona. Mark Kelly still seems to be holding a pretty good lead. I think the polls have maybe made this a little bit closer. Mark Kelly was consistently having close to a double-digit lead in the polls. I think Mark Kelly in the Real Clear Politics average is 6 or 7 points, maybe 5 or 6 points ahead. Still, this is very a large number. Joe Biden is leading in the polls in the state. I still think Donald Trump can win this state. I think it's going to be a lot harder for Martha McSally to win this state just because Mark Kelly is a lot more popular than her in Arizona. I mean, he's an astronaut. Martha McSally has lost again. I say this a lot. I don't think Doug Ducey should have appointed Martha McSally. I understand why. I think the Republican Party on a national level wants to see more female leaders, but I don't think Martha McSally was the right choice here. So lastly, I have one more lean Democratic state. I was very conflicted on whether to put this in the lean Democratic or tilt Democratic state. Right now, though, I have this as a lean Democratic characterization. The Democratic challenger to Susan Collins, I think her name is Sarah Gideon, has been up in the polls by an average on the Real Clear Politics by 4 or 5 points. And Susan Collins has historically won the seat by double-digit margins. However, this time it's going to be different for sure. Susan Collins has never been losing in the polls when she's the incumbent in the state of Maine. And this is one state that I think Joe Biden's going to win pretty easily. And so it's going to be hard for Susan Collins is going to have to win some voters who vote for Joe Biden. And I don't know if that's very possible just with the increased polarization and the decline in split ticket voting. So next up, I'm going to go to the tilt states. The first state I have as a tilter is the state of Iowa. I think the state could move into the lean Republican column in later dates. Right now, even in the polls, I think Joni Ernst is still leading. I expect Donald Trump to win the state between 3 and 5 points, a smaller margin than he did in 2016, but still a pretty healthy margin. And I think this will help Joni Ernst. I think the Republicans are going to pour money into the state just because it's a competitive state on the presidential and Senate level, and because the Republicans just have an advantage there. I don't think it would be wise for the Democrats really to invest a lot of money into the state because they can still win the presidency and a Democratic majority, I'll show you in a little bit, without the state of Iowa. So I still expect the Republicans to win the state on the Senate level. Lastly, I have the state of North Carolina. I think the state's tilt towards the Democrats right now. In my video yesterday, I had North Carolina's tilting towards Donald Trump on the presidential level. I think that Tom Tillis is weaker in the state of North Carolina than Donald Trump. So I right now I see this as the only state that is actually going to split parties on the presidential and Senate level. The polls just have Cal Cunningham up by a significant margin against Tom Tillis. And Tom Tillis is not a very strong candidate. Even in 2014, when someone like Cory Gardner won, Cory Gardner and Tom Tillis won by similar margins, which isn't good considering that North Carolina is a lot more Republican than Colorado. And before I go, I just want to go to the Real Clear Politics Senate map just to show you like where we might differ on some things. So as you can see, the swing states on the Senate level we have pretty similar, except that like I don't really think that Michigan, Arizona, or Montana or Georgia are really swing states at this point. So I really think that Iowa, North Carolina, and Maine are going to be the swing states. Let's see if there's any different characterizations here. It's pretty similar. They have South Carolina as a lean Republican state. I have it as a likely Republican state. So just a little bit of difference in opinion there. But other than that, everything looks pretty similar. So please give this video a like, subscribe here, and hit the bell notification if you haven't already. And be on the lookout for future videos. Please tell me if you agree with my analysis in the comments below. Thanks, guys.